This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. My name is Vanita Lambert. I am the host, and I have my co-host, my monthly co-host back, Dr. Sunji Phillips, and we want to thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Sunji Phillips is here once a month to provide us with phenomenal information. I have learned so much since she's been here, and I'm learning to implement some of her advice and everything into different parts of my life, with my children, with my husband, at work, and so on and so forth. And I know that you guys are too. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Sunji.
Oh, you are so welcome.
For bringing all this wonderful information and sharing your experience and your education with us and teaching us. And she also has two trainings, right?
Yes.
On Bryson.com, or is it
Yes.
Bryson Associates?
At BrysonAssociates.com. You can go online, and we do parenting training every Monday morning at 10 a.m. and for English speaking, and Wednesday mornings at 10 for Spanish speaking. And so, there you get to engage with our instructors, and if you have questions around parenting, you are able to, just kind of raise your hand during the webinar. It's very interactive and very engaging from clinical, professionals. Yeah.
And she does all of this for free. Normally, you would have to pay about $200 an hour, but it's all for free. And we are also, I just today went into our podcast studio, so hopefully we'll be, I'll get some experience and we'll be able to put a podcast on as well.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Specifically tailored for you and all the information that you're giving us, because this is, this is phenomenal, and it's free and it's priceless. And I'm sure it's helping a lot of the parents deal with their children, whether they have disabilities or not. A lot of, especially in the work field, whether you're in a leadership role or whether you're in an entry level role, you have just given so much information. I'd just like to say thank you for that.
You are welcome. Welcome to you, and welcome to anyone else that is saying thank you. It's actually my pleasure to share some of what I've learned and some of what I've experienced with others. So yeah, it's actually a pleasure.
Yes, and I just wanted to, I ran into a friend who had some information, and I was going to ask you about it. You're also LLC. You have you're a professional businesswoman. You started your own business, and it's an LLC. And she's looking into getting an LLC.
Oh,
and she was asking me all these questions. I was like, I have no idea. I think so, but I know somebody that I can ask. And when we're done with the show, I'm actually going to send her the link so that she can contact you and ask you some questions about becoming a businesswoman. She's a nurse. She works really hard.
Oh, beautiful.
And she wants to, start maybe her own private business, but she doesn't want it to be in just one category. She doesn't want it to be in healthcare. She may want to do healthcare and entertainment and something else under the same LLC, and that's what her questions were about. And I wasn't able to help her, so I told her I would ask you, because I was seeing you today. I just saw her this morning.
All right.
So see how helpful she is. And I met Dr. Sunji at a networking event.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And networking is so, so important. And it's something that I don't think I realized the value of it until more recent years. Because, I get up here on this podcast and I speak and we talk, and anybody's like, oh, she's very outgoing. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am definitely not the one that wants to be in the front or on stage. I am always the one that's in the back, kind of directing things from the back end, making sure, all systems are in place. It was hard to push me to the front. And so, and I really only came to the front when I realized I could help more people in the front instead of in the back. I can only support the performers from the back from the front, I can help, I can speak to the multitude. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's the only reason. But, it is what it is, right? We grow and we learn and we figure things out, right?
Exactly. And like I said, we met at a Southern Connecticut Black Chamber of Commerce networking event. We're both members.
Yes.
And I was there talking about, retirement income and insurance and things. And so we made an appointment, we got together, and that's how all of this came about. And look where we are.
Yes.
That's how it happened for me too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's beautiful.
It is. So thank you. Thank you.
are
What are we
welcome.
working on today? We're continuing from last week.
Right. We were speaking on last month about human growth and development, and we had kind of talked about infancy. I don't think we ever made it out of infancy. When we get together and we start talking, it's just like, okay, you don't know what's going to come out of our mouths here. So I wanted to kind of bring us back to human growth and development and speak a little bit about the next stage of human growth and development. And I want to talk about the ages right around 4 years old, 5 years old. And the things that parents need to know about their children. I sat in on a webinar yesterday evening, and they were speaking about autistic children, and it was a really good webinar, and they were just kind of helping parents to understand what to look for in your children if you believe that they may be autistic. Well, as the woman was speaking, I was just sitting and I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, that's like, like the characteristics with like every kid that I know. If they are not sharing or they don't engage or their communication skills are not at the milestone level. And so, it causes parents to get a little bit frightened when they start hearing that, these are the characteristics of autism, and then they look at their own child and they're like, yeah, she doesn't play with anyone, But the other thing is, if you have a child that is an only child, they may not have learned how to play with others just yet. And it is somewhat of a natural thing, but if the child spends all day or every day, at home alone, then it's possible that you just need to get some play dates and arrange some times that your child can spend with other people. Don't Google and get afraid that something may be wrong. Just take them to a professional, let them take a look and see what their diagnosis or what could be going on, because it doesn't always have to be autism.
Right, or something negative. Even just like daycare, that's a great resource for children because they're with other children. And I think they could go at like 2 years. They could go, at 6 weeks when you first have them. But, when they start moving around a lot, and I'm talking from experience from my granddaughter, they're just too much for you to handle all day. Then they need, that a daycare structure where, everything is constructive. They go in, they have breakfast, they paint, they play, and things like that. And there's other people around.
Absolutely.
And that will bring out the best in your children.
Yeah, it'll help them to learn socialization. And socialization is one of the areas of autism that we see a lot of deficiencies in. So, if children are unable to socialize, they're unable to communicate, then it becomes somewhat of a push for parents to get them into settings to help them to socialize more. And and absolutely, I absolutely agree that children should have play dates and playmates that should come over. They should learn that skill early on, because then it leads to later on in life developing necessary social skills, around emotional intelligence, which are very important in living as well as in working. You have, we've talked about this before, but I wanted to kind of get into a little bit about human growth and development around the toddler age. So, and I know you saw how I just veered off, because you get me started talking about my baby's autism and all like that, I can go on.
That's why I'm trying to be quiet and let you get to it.
So let me focus for a minute on what we're supposed to be doing here. Okay. Most children, ages 4 to 5, as they continue to grow, they may grow at a slower rate at that point. By the time kids become toddlers, they're going to grow at a little bit of a slower rate, because as we discussed on last month, infants double in size through that infancy period. You know, you don't think about things like that, but they actually do. There's never another point in life when where any one of us are going to double in size. And when I say size, I'm not talking weight, because COVID did a lot of us. COVID did a lot of us in. I'm just going to put that out there. But I'm talking, you know, in terms of natural growth, height, and you know. And so what you find now, once your kids get into this toddler age, that they begin to grow at a slower rate, and then some parts begin to grow at a faster rate. And for example, their organs can grow faster than the body, and giving preschoolers a little bit of a round tummy. You know, and you see that in little kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they have, their heads look
Pot
a little
belly.
larger. Yeah, their little heads look a little bigger than their bodies, you know. I don't even know if I should say this on TV. But, you know, we used to look at the kids when they were that age, and they look like little lollipop kids. You know, like that little round head with that little, that little stick by, yeah. So, you know, they begin to, certain organs will grow larger than other organs. And so the head is one thing that, you know, you'll find it grows a little bit larger than the rest of the body. But then, of course, you know, as they continue to grow, their bodies catches up with their little heads. And so as they continue to get a little bit older, you know, right about that toddler age, you'll see that about 20% of that children, by the time that they are 5 years old, they will reach, and it says about 20% of their adult height. That was a statistic that I was not aware of, by the time they're 5 years old. And so, you know, they have a lot of growing, you know, you'll see some kids that will be taller than others, other kids will be very short. And it doesn't always necessarily have to do with the parents, because I do notice sometimes you'll see parents that are rather tall, and the kids will, you know, look a little bit, you know, petite in size. But as they continue to grow, then you'll see them kind of give into whatever their genetics are. So if they're genetically inclined to be taller, as they continue to get older, you'll see it. You may not see it during the age periods of 4 and 5. And so the way that these infants learn about the world is through the activities that you give them. So then that's when it's very important, the toys that we're giving them or how we're engaging them. This is a critical period for learning. So now this is why these makers, children's educational toys, toddler educational toys is $1 billion industry, because everyone knows that this is the period in which the kids are going to take in and retain so much more now. And what I mean by that is, if you think about a toddler has come in this world and they know very little, you know, coming in coming in as an infant. They know very little. But by the time they get into that 2 to 5, 6-year-old bracket, between 2 and 6 years old, they have learned so much. They have absorbed like a sponge. I had the pleasure of watching a 2-year-old class. The class had, I think it's all 2 years old in the class. And I had the pleasure of watching them, and the teachers are asking them the colors, and what color is this? And the kids are like orange, purple, blue, yellow. And I'm sitting and I'm just amazed, because at such a young age, they're able to identify their colors. They're able to identify their shapes. Yep. They're able to identify their numbers. And, you know, they don't have the skill yet of writing, so they're still just kind of coloring, and they're kind of teaching them how to color in the line to prepare them for their writing skills. But it was just, it was just amazing to me to see young people be able to retain so much information that they're going to need later on in life, you know, and that is basically what's happening between the age of 2 and 6. Our young people are gathering and learning the information that they're going to use throughout their life.
That's right.
Now, I want to put this out there in comparison to things like, you know, when we go to school. When we go to school, we learn a lot of times to get through the classes. You know, I want to say, as a psychology major, I was very interested in psychology, and any class that I took that dealt with psychology, I was very into it, and I was very involved in it. Classes I had to take, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to, was like astronomy, astrology.
But you needed it to get your degree.
I needed it to get my degree.
You had to pass.
I had to do enough to pass it so that I can get out of there. Even geography, and today I would get lost on my own block if they tore the McDonald's down. So these are just things that we do in life so that we can get beyond where we need to be. All knowledge is key. I want to say that. Any knowledge that is given is key. But I think as people, we kind of focus in and we kind of direct, we create this trajectory directly towards what we believe will be useful in our lifetime.
That's true. That is so true.
Now, I know a lot of times kids will say, what do I need algebra for? What do I need arithmetic for? Why do I need statistics? Well, I have used all three throughout my life. Every single day of my life, you are multiplying, you are dividing, you are doing statistical analysis about things, you are figuring out how something is calibrating against something else. And this is something that, that kids or young people, that's what I want to say, youth and young people, when they're in school, they're not necessarily focusing their attention on, but it is something that they're going to need through life. But our babies, those that 2 to 6 years old, they're learning that as they begin to learn that 2 and 2 equals 4, that 4 and 4 equals 8, and then you see their little minds as they're using it. When you put down 5 pieces of candy and you say to them, you can only have 2, and they reach over and they grab 2 pieces. Well, that little bit of understanding or knowledge is something that they will use throughout their life.
Their whole lives.
Exactly. And so that's a lot of what we see when we look at toddlers today. We look at them learning the skills and the academics and what they're going to need to use throughout their life. And they're learning it in the basic forms, but it's key. This is also a very good time to teach the babies 2 languages. Teach them the separate second language. It gets harder as you get older because now you're very analytical about it. As a child or as a toddler, you're not as analytical about your learning. You just absorb it.
You just do it. Yeah. Everything you're saying, I am just picturing and going through the things that my granddaughter does. She'll be 2 in July. So everything you're saying, the numbers, the colors, it's right on point. It's right on point. That's why I'm looking at you like this. And it's able to keep me quiet because I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then the algebra and the mathematical part of it, they're going to use that to calculate risk throughout their entire lives. And I've even seen that as you were talking. And I'll give you an example. My granddaughter was coming down. She was getting ready to come down 4 stairs on our porch. And she was on, I guess, the right side, and she looked around, and she was like, oh, this doesn't look too good. She walked over to the left side, where all the little bars were, went sideways and held onto the bars and went down. So she already calculated, whoa, I might fall.
She calculated
and went to the other side.
risk.
It is unbelievable what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's exactly what we're speaking about. There is a video circulating on social media, and it is the most adorable. It's a little baby. To look at him, maybe he's about 8 months, 9 months. I don't think he's a year. But whoever was videotaped him getting off the bed. So he kind of looked down at first and realized it's a little bit far from where I want to fall. So then he went around and gathered all the pillows on the bed and threw them down before him, and then eased his way down. And he literally looked like he couldn't have been 7 or 8 months. In my mind, he has fallen off that bed before, so he's learned that lesson. And this is very important when we observe our children. And I want to say sometimes children with disabilities, they don't always learn from experience immediately. It's a consistent and able to be able to teach, you have to use repetitive motions, and you have to use repetition is key for their learning. But
Yep.
it is very likely that if your child has a disability, or if they're a young adult or an adult with a disability, it's very likely that they will go and touch a stove and burn themselves and still do it a few more times, several times, or without recognizing that this is a dangerous situation. Now, in a typical developing child, once they've burnt their hand on the stove, the first time when you see them come back in the kitchen, they're walking in with ease because they remembered that last time that I walked over and I kind of touched that stove and it was hot. These are also some key indicators for possible disability in a child. It doesn't mean if your child burned themselves twice on the stove that they're disabled, but these are some of the things that we do look out for, and these are some of the things when parents do come in for assessments and analysis for their children. These are some of the questions that the assessor might ask or lend to. Okay, so
That's amazing.
So the other thing is, it's during this age that children are learning what's good from bad. And do you know how children learn what's good from bad?
No.
From watching your facial cues. They watch the
You're
way
kidding.
that you respond. So if I go and I grab this pen, and you can give a verbal cue, which is no, don't do that. But if when I grab something, if mom or dad looks and they have a look of disappointment, the child will understand that what I just did is not nice or is not good. That smile, it lets them know everything is okay. This begins as young as infancy in children.
Yep.
And it continues. I can remember, I'm a person that never believed in corporal discipline for children. I don't feel like it really works. I just feel like it teaches kids how to be aggressive or, and I just don't think pain is the right way to go to teach a child.
Don't let my son hear you say that. Go ahead.
That's always been my philosophy, when it comes to kids. I just don't think that's the right way to go. And I come from a generation where my mom would, you outside cutting up or misbehaving. Yeah, she reach up on that tree, grab a switch, and won't lose a motion, tearing your legs up with a switch she done grabbed from a tree. But I just don't think that it works. But one thing that I did know, and I found even with my children, even as they went into adulthood, when we were out in social settings, and they were young adults, and I guess even now as adults, if something happens and they say something or they do something, I notice they'll kind of cut their eye over at me just to see if I gave the approval that, that's right, you were right. And then when they get that yes, mom approves of this, they know that, this is okay. And this is the way that we teach our children what is good and what's bad. It is whatever immediately responds to what they do. And it can be a yell, it can be a hit, or it can only be an expression. But you train them up from the beginning that I'm not happy with that, or that was good. And you feed that into everything that they do. You feed that smile of approval. You feed that smile of accomplishment to your children. Or you feed them that I'm not happy with this.
Right. Yeah.
And they will receive that.
Yeah.
They will know when things are good and bad, and then you won't have to, continue to hit your child or beat them every time they do something wrong, because that facial expression, it speaks volumes over, physical or even communication, verbal communication.
That's true, except for my son. My son is in a class by himself, and I have two. So one, I tried the timeout, I did all that, it didn't work. Even the spankings, the whoopings, it didn't work until he got to a certain age. He was just determined to do what he wanted to do, regardless of the consequences. He's a good kid now, but I mean, that's what it took. Then my other son, I never punished him. I mean, I may have put him on a timeout that I can't even remember or something for getting a bad grade in school or whatever, but the other one, no punishment. So sometimes it might depend on the child.
Does.
He has such that domineer, strong personality where, you know, I know that I'm going to be punished for a week, but I'm going to enjoy this moment. And that's my baby Joe. I love him dearly. That's my heart.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was going to say, you definitely have some of those kids, you know. And I want to say something, even about those kids. We've taught them how to be that strong, domineering personality through our engagement with them. I'm not going to say people were not born with their personalities, but, you know, it's how we fed into it and it's how we nurtured it, which is how it later developed. So, you know, as a mother of grown children, you know, I can't raise my children over, but even now, I make sure that I spend enough time with them so that I can continue to nurture them throughout their young adulthood. Exactly. You know, because it's still important that our young people and our children get insight. I mean, I'm very close with my mother. You know, and if she's disappointed with me, I'm disappointed in myself.
Exactly.
You know,
You're
so
right.
it still extends on into adulthood. So I'm saying that to say if you are a parent of a young adult or an older teen, don't feel like you've lost the opportunity to rear or to gear your child towards the way that you would like them, a better social engagement or emotional intelligence, a higher level of emotional intelligence. You can do that with adults. You can do it with grown people. You know, emotional intelligence is something that we grow and we develop over time.
That's right. Just continue to do what you're doing, and then it's a new generation, so you try to bridge the gap, try to meet them halfway in their millennial world, whatever it is they're doing. And then you tell them, you know, the right way, and you give them options so that they can choose.
Absolutely.
And hopefully they'll do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
Dr. Sunji?
Absolutely.
So we have about 30 seconds left. I hope that you enjoyed the session as much as I did and learned as much as I did. And please share this information. We're on YouTube. Just share it with anyone who didn't get a chance to watch it. So thank you once again for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoy coming here. Absolutely.
And I enjoy having you. So that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.